Welcome to church. If this is your first time here, my name's Andrew. Me and Julie are the pastors here at Rose. It's our honor to have you. And I know maybe you're walking by, came on in. I know some people then watch on socials, decided to actually come to church, and maybe you've been here for the last 4 years. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Today's a pretty special Sunday. And if you walked in and this is your first time being here, I just want to forewarn you, it's going to be a bit overwhelming today. We're baptizing people, worship. I'm going to speak for a little bit. We're going to give today for those of us that call Rose home. We've been gearing up for today for 7 weeks. Since October 2nd, since Vision Sunday, which we adjusted some things on Vision Sunday to change our vision statement, our mission statement, and kind of set not a yearly goal or a 6-month goal, kind of like a generational goal. This is where we're going. And we've been on a series called Building Big. And it's because our mission statement is to build big people. I refuse to build a big church and have small people. I don't care how big our church ever gets as long as we're building big people. And so I want you to look back in years to come and be like, man, look at who I've become. Look at my life and my soul, my spirit. Look at who I've become. And so we've been talking for the last 7 weeks on what does it mean to build big? What does it mean to be a big person? And gearing up to today, which is our vision offering or our big give, as we'll talk about in a moment. So once again, if you're a visitor today, newer with us, we're going to talk about money today. I'm sorry. But for those of us that call Rose home, we've been gearing up for this conversation for a few months. And I would also challenge you, if you missed last weekend, I would implore you, beg you, plead with you, ask you, any other verb you want to use, to go watch last week's sermon on YouTube about giving, about resource, how our money affects us, and how the Bible from Genesis 4 talks about money. And listen, I'm very aware that money's a hot topic for a lot of people. Money's very uncomfortable. It's very nuanced. I know the season we find ourselves. I argued with the Lord many times during the season. I told the staff, even some of them, I don't want to do this big give. Let's cancel it. This is not the right time. Gas is $40 a cent, a gallon. It's a bag of chips is $9. A gallon of milk is your mortgage. So I have 3 kids. I know, with school and lunch and kids' shoes, and I have growing kids. So every month, my son's like, Dad, my shoes are too small. And I'm like, you just ruined them. You want new ones. And so I get it. Life is expensive, and I know it could be a little bit maybe coming off as tone deaf. I'm like, man, this isn't really the time to talk about money. Do you understand the world? This is a bit tone deaf. I understand. I'm fully aware. Or maybe it's the perfect time to talk about money. Because maybe if we were doing this 3 years ago, it'd be a lot easier. And so I think God's doing something in our church and in our life, and I'm going to share some things today. Then we're going to get ready for Big Give and believing for God to do something really, really special. And this is different than tithes and offerings. This is different than our normal giving. This is above and beyond, and specifically for our Vision Fund and for our Big Give. And as we begin to do a bunch of new things in the church, like the recovery program and discipleship and some staff stuff and essentials school, all this stuff that we're trying to attempt to grow and build to help you become big people. We're going to need a resource to do it. But I just want to share 8 things with you really, really quick. 8 sounds like a lot, but really, really quick. And then we're going to land one place that I want to share from. And can I just I know Julie woke up sassy. I woke up very confident. I'll say it that way. As I was driving here, I'm like, Lord, this is not the day. I don't want to do this. And somebody Pastor, anybody talking about money? No, I don't. It's not my favorite topic. But I know it means something to you. It means something to me. It means something to our church. And so when I was getting ready this morning, the Holy Spirit's like, be confident. So I'm going to. And I'm going to share from my heart. I chose violence this morning. And so I want to be very, very honest. And once, if you're like, man, this is a lot. This is for Rose family. So if you're a visitor today, just sit back and watch the Thanksgiving family talk, if you will. I'm going to be very, very honest and very, very forthright this morning. So please give me the liberty to do so. Here we go. 1 Corinthians chapter 16. We're going to read a few verses from there, and then we'll jump to 2 Corinthians 18. Context for you. The church in Jerusalem is getting destroyed. The Roman Empire is destroying the church in Jerusalem, and they're losing their jobs, they're losing their money. The church in Jerusalem has asked the other churches for money. So the church in Jerusalem has asked Paul, will you talk to the other churches and raise some money for us because we need funds? And so Paul, as the pastor of Corinth and Galatia and Thessalonica and all these churches, he's writing to all these churches saying, hey, I need you to take an offering. I need you to prepare some money. I'm going to swing by and pick it up, and then I'm going to drop it off at the church of Jerusalem. So this is where we pick up in 1 Corinthians 16, and then we'll jump to 2 Corinthians 8. Because apparently, the Corinthians asked Paul, what's with this offering? And so it says, now regarding your question about the money being collected for God's people in Jerusalem, you should follow the same procedure I gave to the churches in Galatia. On the first day of each week, you should each put aside portion of the money you have earned. Don't wait until I get there and then try to collect it all at once. When I come, I will write letters of recommendation for the messengers you choose to deliver the gift to Jerusalem. If it seems appropriate for me to go along, I'll go with them. Now transition over to 2 Corinthians 8. And this is a year later. 2 Corinthians 8, 2 Corinthians 9 is a year later from 1 Corinthians 16. And I will give you 8 simple thoughts this morning about what giving does. And this is my title for my sermon. This is my heart for today. It's called The Generous Life. The generous life. What would it mean to live a generous life? It doesn't just mean like a tithing life or a giving life. What does it mean to live a generous life? A generous life. Here's 8 things about generosity, 8 things about giving. Number 1 is giving is our thing. Giving is our thing. You ever meet someone and they're like, hey, this is like Mark. He's super funny. That's his thing. Hey, they have this business or they enjoy these kind of this is their thing. You all introduce people to your friends this is so-and-so, blah, 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 and you say something about them. Why? Because that's their thing. Giving's our thing. For those of us that call ourselves Christians, this is our thing. From the very beginning of the church, from Old Testament, New Testament, we're always taking offerings. We're always raising money. We're always trying to give money away. There's actually 3 offerings in the Old Testament that Moses and twice David told the church, you've given so much, please stop. Lord, I would like to one time tell the church, we're good. The Bible says they gave so much, the pastors were like, stop giving. We got more than enough, stop giving. Book of Acts, one of the main things from the historical church is that we gave everything. Read the first 5 chapters of the book of Acts. It's all about generosity, selling land, selling homes, living open-handed, living shared life. This is our thing. This is not a personality trait. This is a Christian thing. This isn't for those of us that feel generous and don't feel generous and was raised with it, wasn't raised with it, really not my thing. If you're like, man, generosity is not really my thing. If you follow Jesus, it's now your thing. Because generosity and giving has always been our thing. Number 2, I want to go quick. Number 2, giving inspires giving. Look at 2 Corinthians chapter 9. I really don't need to write to you about this ministry of giving for the believers in Jerusalem. For I know how eager you are to help, and I've been boasting to the other churches in Macedonia that you guys in Greece were ready to send an offering a year ago. In fact, it was your enthusiasm that stirred up many of the Macedonian believers to start giving. He's actually like, you know what? Your guys' generosity, your guys' enthusiasm has actually stirred up other churches to give. Man, my prayer is let it be said of Rose Church that our giving stirs other churches' givings. That when people learn about Rose's generosity and how we give money away and what we do and offerings, and Rose is so generous, it's actually inspiring other churches to be generous. Man, I've watched other churches. Man, I've watched Bridgetown raise $3 million for a building, and I'm like, Lord, do it again. I've watched churches get on stage and give away $20 million to people in need. I pray that one day we are so overwhelmingly blessed with finances and resource and generosity that we are inspiring other people, that we're inspiring other giving. So I pray today that as we give of our resource, it doesn't stir up guilt, it stirs up giving. Man, you giving and challenges me. You giving stirs my giving. Man, I learned what you guys are going through. I learned how much you gave or what you guys do with your money and how generous you are with your home. And this isn't just money, it's home and life and everything. Man, your giving actually is stirring up my giving. So I pray during this time of giving that giving actually inspires giving. Number 3, giving needs reminding. This is funny to me. In 1 Corinthians 16, they say, hey, we want to give. A year later, Paul's having to tell them, look at 1 Corinthians 8, verse 10. Here's my advice. It would be good for you to finish what you started a year ago. Last year, you were the first who wanted to give, and you're the first to be doing it. Now you should finish what you started. Look at 2 Corinthians 9, a few verses later. But I'm sending these brothers to be sure that you're really ready this time, as I've been telling them, and that your money is all collected. I don't want to be wrong in my boasting about you. We would be embarrassed, not to mention your own embarrassment, if some Macedonian believers came with me and found out you weren't ready after all. Notice he's like, a year ago, you guys wanted to give. I just want to remind you, you should finish what you started. Maybe today, this is your reminder to finish what you started. Maybe a year ago, maybe 6 months ago, you were like, I want to start giving, I want to start tithing, I want to start serving, I want to start, and you just haven't because life happened. Let this be your reminder, finish what you started. Because sometimes giving just needs reminding. Because we set goals, we have desires, and then just life happens. And it just wanders off. And like, no, let this serve as a reminder to you. Finish what you started. Giving often needs reminding. Number 4, give with the right proportion and the right heart. He says multiple times, I need to hurry, I don't want to read it all, but he says multiple times in 2 Corinthians 8 and 9, make sure you give from your heart, not reluctantly, but freely, not from pressure, but from desire. And then he says, make sure you decide in your heart and give with the right proportion. I'm not after equal giving. Okay, let's all give $200 today. Nope, we're not after equal giving. We're after equal sacrifice. That someone giving $5,000 or $10,000 is sacrificing as much as someone giving $250 because God sees the proportion, not just the amount. God sees the proportion of your resource. So today, don't feel an overwhelming sense to give above your proportion. Please don't give to God's house and bankrupt your home. That means you gave outside your proportion. And you're like, well, what's my proportion? It's when you give and you're like, man, I should get that back. You ever had that? After you give, you're like, man, I could have. Like, that's how you know it mattered to you. I would submit to you pastorally, if you give today and never think about it again, you did not give in proportion. It should actually make you think. My dad used to call it when I was a kid, the ouch offerings. Son, give your ouch offering today. I'm like, what do you mean, like pinch myself when I give? Or like, no, it was like, ouch, that affected me. I'm thinking about it. I've talked to many of you on the phone this week. I've had people call me, text me, DM me. At Essentials, we talked about it. I love how many people said to me, your sermon was difficult. I was like, good. Because it's supposed to be. Giving is hard to talk about. It's not fun preaching about. That's why it's super quiet in this room. No one's screaming amen. Why? Not that I need that, but why? Because it's personal. It means something. It's difficult. Why? Because it's worth wrestling with. It's worth wrestling generosity and horrible budgeting. There's a line. There's a line between you didn't budget correctly and now you can't pay bills and blaming on being generous to God. You didn't budget correctly. And there's a line of, oh yeah, I gave. Did you? Because you didn't think about it ever again after you gave it, right? There's a wrestle between giving and generosity, and lean into it. Because giving has to do with the right heart and the right proportion. Number 5, giving takes faith. Amen. Thank you, Delano. I see you, sir. He's on the financial board. He has to yell amen. So, oh, man. Giving doesn't take budgeting. It takes faith. Okay? So it's not just, oh, I budgeted and I gave. No, even if you budget it, it still takes faith. He likens it in 2 Corinthians 9. He says, farmers that sow small seed will reap a small harvest, and though farmers that sow abundant seed will reap an abundant harvest. Notice how he compares giving to farming. I have some farming friends. Do you know how much faith it takes to farm? To plant something in the ground and wait 6 months and pray the weather works out, pray the ground cultivates, pray the seed works out. Do you know how much faith it takes to farm? He says, same thing. Do you know how much faith it takes to give? It takes faith. It takes faith. I get emails every once in a while. Some of them are great and some I don't read. It's the truth. It's true. Somebody's like, nah, never mind. I'm going to read you an email from someone this week. A good one. For context, she was raised with money. Parents have a lot of money, family money. He's a cardiologist. Like, they were raised with money. And she had a very, very unique relationship with money starting at the age of 9 or 10. Started counting every penny, every bank account. And she says in the email, at the age of 10, I already told myself, I will make so much money, I'll never have to trust anyone else for it. At the age of 10. So just a bit of context, that her parents got big arguments about it. So this is, I'm fast forwarding to the email. Watching my parents inform me to be a saver. I hated spending money. I loved watching it grow. I would religiously count all of my dollars and coins. I tracked it in my journal to make sure nobody stole a single cent from my piggy bank. Contrast this with the experience of my spouse, who has a very healthy relationship with money. The anxiety was not around money for him growing up. He gives and buys without remorse. Money for him is a tool, not an idol. My anxiety about money became very apparent when we got married and combined our bank accounts. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, my spouse was out of town during team night. After last weekend, we got in the car, looked at each other in silence, thinking about what we would give as a part of the church. I told my spouse, I think it needs to feel uncomfortable, like 4 figures. She says, maybe $1,000. He looked at me and said, and I thought my number was big. I was thinking 500. She then says, I prayed about it and came back to him and said, 500 is good. My spouse said back, oh no, I meant 5,000. We chose the biggest and the most uncomfortable number. It felt like the biggest number to me at first, and I dwelled on it literally every day. My husband was out of town for team night, and so I wrote our figure down and went up by myself and committed. I felt this overwhelming emotional and relief. I made a commitment, and this is what I want you to hear. I didn't want to live this way anymore. And now I knew that I didn't have to. I want to live with an open hand, with a generous heart. I want to break the generational cycle of greed that has played itself out in my dad's side of the family over and over again. I walked away feeling and continue to feel like a different person with a new heart and a new posture towards money. Today, a literal week later, my partner's firm came to me and I received a $20,000 raise. In addition to a seasonal bonus, I have never received a raise at my work before. 4 times the amount that we pledged. Not only to mention, this always happens at the end of December and not in November, but it was 7 days to the day that I committed that number. Now, some of you are like, if I give, I will get 4 times back. That is not what I'm saying. Don't soundbite me. That's not biblical at all. What I am saying is, God respects faith. That is what I'm saying. Another lady came up to after the first service. She's like, I wrote the biggest number I could down, and it scared me. I was coming to church today not wanting to give it, and I got an email from my company saying they mispaid me 2 pay periods ago, and it was the exact number to the dollar that I committed. I can keep going down. I'm telling you, God respects faith, and it takes faith to give. And I'm not saying if you give today, money when you get home is in your mailbox. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is it will change your entire life. If you give and allow God into your resource, it takes faith. It's not budget. It's not even plan. It's faith. Giving takes faith. Number six. Giving goes where I can't. These people would never ever meet the people in Jerusalem, but their money would. Did you know that if you give every single month and serve with your money, you've been a lot of places? You've built wells. You've helped single moms and dads. You've paid for groceries. You've paid for healthcare. You've done more than you would ever know, and you have never met those people, but your money has, so therefore you have. Because when you swipe, when you text, when you give, your money goes where you can't. Did you know that you have a worldwide ministry? And you might never leave this city, but you do, because your giving goes places you will never go. Number 7, 6, 7, whatever. Giving makes me like Jesus. He says later in 2 Corinthians 8, he's like, I just want to remind you, our Savior was rich and he became poor so that you might become rich. All he's saying is, oh, you want to give? You're just like Jesus. Number 8, and this is where I want to get a little bit testy. Giving is always taken trust. Trust. Notice what happens. He says, I want you on the first of the week, which is Sunday, to give every single week until I get there. They're not swiping credit cards. They're not text to give. They're not Venmoing the church in Jerusalem. They're literally putting their coins in a bag. Bags of money. Paul says, 2 of my brothers are going to show up and take it. Well, who are these people? Do I trust them? Who are they? He goes, oh, they're going to show up and take the money. And they're going to walk it. Take the bags of money and walk it to the church of Jerusalem. Well, what if they take some coins on the way? Well, what if they don't give all of the bags? Well, what if they keep some for themselves? What if they give it to different churches and not? Do you know how much trust giving takes? And it's always been that way. So let me just, this is where I want to lay some things at your feet. Of course it takes trust to give. Like, well, where's the money going? What's happening? I don't know, I don't like where it goes. There's not one time in all of the Bible that scriptures say, give to where you trust. It just says give. It does not say one time, give when you agree where it's going. Give to things that you care about. Give to things that you have interest in. It doesn't say that. All it says continually over and over and over and over again, actually 2,300 times, is give generously. Because hear me, if we were to ever, which we will never because I have a board, financial board, staff, eldership, if we were to ever misuse church finances, do you know who gives an account for that to the Lord? Not you. When your money leaves your hands, you've done your part. When we receive in ours, we have to do our part. Your responsibility ends when it leaves your hand. And then mine starts when I receive it. And I'm not setting up like, oh, whoopsies, we misused funds. I'm not setting up some like, well, I told you, don't worry about it. That's not what I'm doing. Do not soundbite me. Don't get on Twitter and be like, pastor is misusing money, okay? Like, I'm not at all. What I'm saying to you is, of course it takes trust. And this is where I just want to be sassy. Like my wife. Why would you trust us with your children and not your money? You will check your offspring in the back and walk off and not think twice. But you will hate me for a 40-minute sermon and be like, I don't trust this guy's money. You trust us with your children? And not your money? So what's more important to you then? You trust me with the theological understanding of your eternal state and not with your money? What are we talking about? If you're there, do you know what you're saying is? Money is more important to you than anything else. That's what you're saying. If you would trust us with your children, trust me from the theological standpoint on this stage to feed you every single Sunday, and sit here and go, I don't trust him with my money. What are you worshiping? What are we talking? I chose violence today. What are we talking about? This is why I talk about money, because it's so hard and it's so personal. And there might be a reason for it. I want to show you some of our giving, because why would I expect you to trust if I'm not honest? Okay? So here's our 2021 giving. In 2021, last year, we had 951 households actively involved in the church. That means served, connect groups, event, check kids in, like they are involved. That's not counting the people that like show up, go home and do nothing, which there's hundreds of them. And if that's you, no worry whatsoever. I'm just saying there's 951 active households in 2021, which represent 1,441 people. 155 of those 951 homes did not give $1 in 12 months. 155 homes did not give $1 in 12 months. 48% of those homes gave less than $500 a year, or would equal to $41 a month, which would mean if you were tithing, you would be making $400 a month and giving $40 a month. More than half of our church gives $41 a month. 25% gives consistently. 0.4% gives consistently and above and beyond, meaning like they give consistently and we're raising money for Ukraine fund or for House of Gifts or all the other offerings. They would give financially and above and beyond, okay? This is 2022. We now have 1,116 households, 1,691 active people, and 40% of our homes have not given $1 in 12 months. 40% of our church has not given one time in 12 months. 29.5% gives $41 a month. So if you take that 329 and that 455, that is 890 something out of 1,116 homes that do not give at all or give $41 a month. 29% of our church gives consistently, 327 homes, and same number, 0.4%. I'm trying to choose my words very carefully here. We have a long, long ways to go with our giving. Long, long ways. If you compare like Portland to national stats and Barna, all these things, we'd be 65% behind in giving comparatively to the amount of people that go to our church. The reason why I'm showing you this, I was talking to a friend this last week and they're newer to the church and they're like, bro, I think we're good. Like, look at our building. Like, why are you taking an offering? We're good. And I was like, oh, let me show you how not good we are. And I was going through this and he was like, I had no idea. Because hear me, this is what he said. Because when I walk in, I feel generosity. You do from a small group of people. And that is why 4 times in 2 Corinthians 8:9, he says, decide for yourself what you should give. I know this isn't comfortable. Some of you are like, this is my first time here, and it might be my last. I get it. This is not popular. This is not how you grow churches, but this is how you grow disciples. I'm fully aware this is not how you grow churches, but I'm not interested in growing my church. I'm interested in growing big people. And big people are not stingy people. I'll tell you that. I've never, ever, ever met a generous person who's poor, like they have no money. The more generous they are, weirdly enough, they're okay. Why? I'm done. This is my prayer. This is our prayer, okay? Our prayer is not just for a generous offering, but a generous church. We are praying for a generous spirit, not a generous moment. I truly don't care what number comes in today. I do care. Because we need money to do what we need to do. But hear me, I actually don't care what number comes in. What we're praying for is for constant giving to grow. Not just today. Because you could give today and never again the rest of the year and consider yourself generous. I actually don't care what number comes in today. This whole theme has been that our constant giving would grow. And I'm fully aware. Some of you are like, I'm in college, I don't work. That's why I don't give. I get it. There's a lot of high schoolers, college students, like you don't work at all. I fully get it. I fully understand. But that's not everyone in this room. That's not every business owner, every business leader, every entrepreneur, every real estate agent. There's more money sitting in this room than you realize. And once again, this is not popular. I know world's expensive. I get it. I would love to keep my money every month and do some other stuff with it. I hear you. I've just decided it's not mine. So we're gonna get ready to give. You can grab your phone. We're gonna do this the most anticlimactic way in the world. Because it's not about the band playing behind me, Josh left the keys. This isn't some emotional, it's like, no, we're gonna give today. Because we wanna be generous as they come back. But, yeah, that's funny. That got me. We're gonna give this morning. Some of you truly are like, I can't give. That's okay. If you're not in the financial state, you're like, I cannot give at all. I'm so far behind in X, Y, Z. I get it. I'm just totally fine. But that would not be all of us in this room. We'll put the fund up. We're gonna take both our givings this morning. So typical tithes and offerings. If you just wanna give normally tithes and offerings this morning, if you're like, I don't wanna give to the vision, I don't wanna give to the vision fund or the big give, that's totally fine. You can give just normal tithes and offerings right now. Just a reminder, because people have asked, you can give with stocks and bonds and crypto, all the digital ways you can forward, all that stuff, all that is on there on roadchurch.org. When we talk to a few groups of people in a moment, number one, all the freelance, entrepreneur, commission-based people, you're like, I can't give today because I don't get paid for the next 30 days. Give in 30 days. Do not think that just because you can't give today, you can't give. Just plan it. Like I know I'm getting paid for that project in 60 days. I'm gonna give when I can. The fund will be open, so if you're like, I just can't give today, so I'm not gonna give. No, we'll leave it open to give when you can. Business owners, you can give from your business and your personal, whatever way that you would like to give. But we're gonna be generous today. We're gonna give of our resource. I know it's not biblical, I have no verses for it, but I am going to pray for multiplication upon your home. I have faith for, I believe for, I absolutely believe in it. I'm believing, as the book of Job says, for a hedge of protection around you and your finances, around your jobs. Don't let children outgive you. God bless. Don't let a 4-year-old be more generous than you. I'm telling you. Don't let some 3-year-old give his cars away and you sitting there with your cars going, these are mine. Come on now. We can do this. We can. You can do this. It will change your entire life. I'm telling you, you can do this. And just like my friend that emailed me, man, that built my faith when me and Julie read that email. Like, yes, it's not about the number. I'm trying to break an ideal hold on our money and our heart. I don't care about the money. I don't care about our $20,000 raise. None of that means anything to me. The most important line was, I don't want to live this way and I don't have to. That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to get the heart of the matter. Not the raises and the money and the bonuses. That come, God bless, but that's not the goal here. The goal is that something deep and spiritual happens to you and your relationship with money.